Welcome into the DRF Sportsbook College Basketball Weekend Pick Show. We have Ryan and Nick in from the Iowa Wise Guys to give us their locks of the weekend. I'll share my lock, and then we'll craft that into the perfect Saturday parlay. I think it was perfect. We didn't even discuss which day of the weekend we were going to pick. We all picked Big 12 games. We all picked Saturday games, and I think we all picked winners. Maybe that's a little bit of my hubris, a little bit of the issue that I have with parlays, but I think we all picked winners. How are you guys doing this weekend?
Doing great, Jack.
Great. Let's get some winners.
All right, so housekeeping stuff before we get underway. Be sure to follow us at DRF Sportsbook. Follow Ryan and Nick as well, right? Iowa Wise Guy, Ryan, and Wise Guys Nick. I always mess up if there's an S on the Wise Guy or if it's singular, but give them a follow on Twitter as well. Follow us. And if you're in Iowa, go ahead and bet with DRF Sportsbook as well. If you bet with DRF Sportsbook, we're the only local sportsbook in Iowa. And all lines today are via KenPom, a little bit changed. Lines will come out Saturday morning, Friday night for all of these games. So without further ado, housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into the fun stuff, what we're all here for. Ryan, take us away.
All right. I'll kick things off here with the team that actually let me down last night. We're recording on Thursday. Last night, I was on TCU at home against Texas. They did pull off the victory. I'm still impressed with TCU, with Miles coming back from injury. I think they're going to go on a nice run here. They're a team that I was telling Jack, that I have money on to make a Final Four run. You can find them. Not sure what DRF has them right now to reach the Final Four, but I think I got it around 7-1. TCU is a very, very capable basketball team that people, I think, forget. They won on the road early in the year at Baylor, at Kansas, dominated, gave Kansas one of their worst losses ever in Allen Fieldhouse. I mean, this is a very good ball club when healthy. They went through a rough stretch there when Miles was banged up. Lost 4 out of 5 games, something like that. But I think they're going to crush Oklahoma on Saturday. TCU's playing to get a better seed. They want a top 4 seed. The tournament committee tries to keep you closer to home, et cetera, if you're top 4 seed, things like that. So they've got things to play for. The Big 12 regular season championship is gone. But they want to keep this momentum going and ride it, I'm sure, into the Big 12 tournament and the big dance. But just some numbers here real quick on Oklahoma. They're last place in the Big 12, and they have the worst home record of all teams in the Big 12. So you can argue they have the smallest or slightest home court advantage. And back when they played on January 24th, TCU beat Oklahoma in Fort Worth. I realized it was on that heinous hardwood court, but they beat them there 79-52. So I think TCU matches up very comfortably against Oklahoma. And so this is my lock of the weekend, guys. TCU, I'm guessing they're going to be about -1 at Oklahoma. I love it.
Did you see TCU's fans storming the court last night? Looked like a bunch of toddlers walking on sand for the first time.
I mean, I think that's the first time that they've stormed a court in quite some time.
Oh yeah, it was so funny. I was dying laughing. There's stuff all over social media.
There was Barstool has this thing that they do called storm chasers. So they'll send like a group of their guys, like their basketball talking heads, to places they think an upset's going to happen. So they're at TCU last night getting ready, and it's hilarious. They come dressed in head to toe in like yellow weather, like rain suit, and they really lean into it. And it's a funny thing that Barstool does for sure. But TCU Oklahoma probably won't be rushing the court against TCU this weekend.
No.
I like the play. And I like the info behind it.
I'm trying to pull up what TCU is listed currently to win the national championship. Plus 4,000. 40-1 to win the national championship. Good little juice. I think they have the capability. I like your reasoning for it, and I think finishing the year out with a win against Oklahoma. What do you think the likelihood of them going on a Big 12 run and maybe moving up the seed lines a few seeds?
I think TCU, it's very likely they'll be in the championship game. They're a great neutral site team. They play well on the road. Like I mentioned, wins at Baylor, at Kansas. So I expect them to do very well in the Big 12 tournament. This is going to be an epic Big 12 tournament, just loaded, especially at the top. Those top four, in my opinion, the two Kansas schools, or top five, I guess. Geez, I can't even narrow it down to four. You got the two Kansas schools, Texas, Baylor, and TCU. So just the Texas schools and the Kansas schools are loaded.
I'm going to put you guys on the spot real quick then. Who's winning the Big 12?
I'll let Nick chime in here first.
I think Kansas is winning the Big 12. I really do. And they play well in Kansas City. It's always a home court advantage for them. And it's hard to go against Kansas in Kansas City.
Kansas wins the Big 12 and the national championship.
Oh,
I don't know about that.
I said last night, no Big 12 and no Big 10 team winning the national championship.
I like Baylor and Kansas both to go on deep runs, and TCU. I can't stop talking about the Big 12.
I'm all the way out on both the big conferences, Big 10 and Big 12. I have no faith in. Nick, your pick for this weekend.
Right there it is, right below my head here. Baylor. I love Baylor this weekend. Ken Pom has Baylor as a 4 to 4.5 point favorite on a neutral site against Iowa State, giving Baylor 4 points there for home court. Iowa State's reeling. Obviously, national headlines, Caleb Grill kicked off the team at Iowa State. And when you look at Iowa State's really big wins this year, Caleb Grill had very big roles in those wins. North Carolina, Kansas, Texas. Some big wins there. Grill played well in those games. And defensively, Grill's a big part of what they do defensively. He's a great defender. I think Iowa State is struggling down the stretch here, obviously. They've lost 4 or 5 in a row, lost 10 of the last 12. Something like that. And, to be honest with you, Baylor has a great home court advantage. They're playing for the number 2 seed still in the Big 12 tournament, which is very important. And they haven't lost at home since early January. It's been 2 months since they've lost at home. I like Baylor to roll the Cyclones this weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree with you, Nick. I think that's a great pick. And that was in my. I narrowed it down to 3, picks for the weekend, and those are my final 2. I was between Baylor and TCU, actually. I think Baylor's going to roll for all the reasons you said, and Baylor's coming on at just the right time.
And Baylor, number 2 in adjusted offensive efficiency there on Ken Pom. If you're going to beat Baylor, you have to be able to score points. Iowa State is extremely limited offensively, and even more so now without Grill. Oh, yeah, if you're going to beat Baylor, you got to score, and Iowa State just can't do that.
I feel so bad for Ryan. I see the hurt in his face, the hurt in his voice with the Iowa State flag flying behind.
Once a promising season is going down the toilet, and I'll tell you what, it's sad to see because I really, Iowa's really playing well at the end of the season. Iowa State really playing poorly. They're going opposite directions here. Iowa still has not to go down this path, but Iowa's still playing for a number 2 seed in the Big 10 tournament, which is quite impressive since from where they were 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, it feels
the third pick on my list was Iowa at home this weekend against Nebraska.
Ooh, baby.
It feels like both of these they've flipped roles from a season ago where Iowa had all this hope. Everyone thought they were poised to make this run in the NCAA tournament. Then you lose to Richmond, who just sneaks in, and then Iowa State goes on this run. It feels like it's kind of the other way around where there was all this hope for Iowa State, and now Iowa might be poised for that deeper run, and Iowa State may be ousted early on by a potential double-digit seed. Yikes.
If Iowa State's not careful, they're going to find themselves in a really bad spot.
Yeah. If they lose their next 2.
I think Iowa State at this point needs to win a Big 12 tournament game in order to be assured a ticket to the big dance.
Currently, according to Bracket Matrix, which takes all of the brackets, Joe Lenardi's bracketology, takes them all, figures it out. Iowa State is a 6 seed in the tournament, so not a great position to be in. If they lose their next 2, you could probably see them fall to the 8 line, and that's a matchup with potentially Missouri, Rutgers, FAU, or Pitt in that first round, which some of those are easy wins. Pittsburgh, we all know they're overrated. They're trash. The ACC is the worst conference in college basketball. We all can agree to that.
How about that Notre Dame play last night, baby?
Talk about the spot. Get it right. Pittsburgh. I don't know how Pitt was number 25 in the country going into that game when they're terrible in every offensive metric. But Iowa State in real danger of slipping down and being in a rough spot.
They're falling apart. With Grill leaving the team, they lose another major offensive weapon, like Nick said. But on the flip side, maybe this rallies the team. Not that he was holding them back necessarily, but maybe it's a kind of a reset button.
Yeah.
And we'll see. But we all agree they're going to get beat at Baylor on Saturday. So, yeah, they better do something in the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah. And last but not least, this third leg of the parlay, this is the one that's going to give it a little bit more juice. I like Kansas money line to win at Texas. I know that's a little insane considering Kansas isn't playing for anything. Texas is still playing for the 2 seed in the Big 12 tournament. It's at Texas, but Kansas just matches up so well in this game with the Longhorns that I can't go against it. I'm putting money line because I expect them to be money line dogs in this game because of the spot. Ken Pom, I think, has Texas right now as a point favorite at home. I think if you can find Kansas, if you can get the Jayhawks at, plus whatever it may be, probably like plus 110, probably something very close, maybe even be a pick 'em. I'm not a professional handicapper. I'm just going off my pure gut there. But if you can find some plus money with the Jayhawks, I'm all over that. Kansas turns you over exceptionally well. Texas doesn't turn it over at a high rate, but Kansas can jump into the passing lanes. They can get some steals. And they just play so well on the interior. Kansas currently has 54.8% of all of their points this season have come from inside the 3-point line. Texas allows some of the most points inside, and that is going to be kind of where this game is won and lost. Texas has allowed 50% of all points scored against them have been inside. And we saw what TCU did on the interior against the Longhorns. They can't rebound well. At one point, deep into the first half, Texas only had 3 boards in the entire game. I think Kansas comes in, plays a little bit of an upset role, and gets their momentum going forward into the Big 12 tournament and potentially winning the NCAA tournament. I'm not taking that future. I'm just kind of pandering here a little bit. I know Ryan's got that future out, but yeah. I think Kansas is one of the best teams in the country, and they'll prove it against Texas.
Ryan hasn't had anybody win in his NCAA basketball pool outside of the Big 12 since he was 14 years old.
I respect it.
Well, in my defense, the last 2 national champions are the Kansas Jayhawks and the Baylor Bears, respectively. So, but I love your pick, Fitz. I love Kansas. You make some great points. The over in that game might be something to take a look at too. Maybe a little same game parlay with Kansas money line and the over. But yeah, Kansas matches up great. You said that, I think the only thing I disagree, you said something about Kansas doesn't have anything to play for. I would argue, maybe the number 1 overall seed or just a number 1 seed in general in the tournament is important, and this game will go a long way in securing that. So
yeah, that's a great point. Currently, they're a 1 seed on bracket matrix. If they lose this and then maybe don't have a deep Big 12 tournament run, can fall from that 1 line to the 2 line. UCLA is right behind them, nipping on their heels. I love UCLA, so that's a great point. I was thinking more so in the short term where it is the Big 12, they have that wrapped up. But if they're playing with their eyes set on the end of March, then yeah, for sure, this game means a lot.
Get on those UCLA futures, baby.
Oh yeah, they are. We may not stay up. Me on the East Coast, I may not stay up every night to watch Pac-12 basketball end on a Thursday or Friday night, and I'm not watching every single UCLA game. But when you look at their metrics and you kind of look at what this team's been doing, they're sneaky.
I made myself stay up last week to catch them. I've been following them, just the numbers, but I have made myself stay up last week. I can't remember who they played, but they look pretty darn good. And I think that's a hot team, hot play coming down the stretch here.
Yeah, and they're well coached. They're a tough out in any tournament.
For sure. So this 3-leg parlay, we have TCU -1, Baylor if it's -8 or anything less. We have Kansas money line. What is the leg that's going to fail us? There's always a leg in the parlay that always lets us down. For Ryan last night, it was the TCU -3.5. Just gets hit terribly at the end. I hope you don't say your own lock, but who's letting us down in this 3-leg parlay?
That's an easy answer. Iowa State. It'd be just like Iowa State to rally, go down to Baylor and play them down to the wire and then barely lose. Baylor wins by like 2 or 3 points.
I think it's the Kansas money line is the outlier there, just because you both said it. You know, we don't know sitting here how motivated Kansas is to play. If they come out motivated, I love the play. If they come out flat, you know, maybe, you know, sprinkle a little bit on the same parlay with Texas. I don't know, you know, what to tell you there, but I think it is Kansas. Hopefully we get a motivated Kansas team.
Yeah, I will say what Texas did last night against TCU impressed me. Down big going into the second half, battled all the way back, battled to the very end. And I know that sounds so cliche where you're just talking about like this team really fought to the very end. Good for them. But I feel like that means something going into the rest of the season and especially into March. It means the coaching staff, I think, has the complete and utter buy-in from this team. And that's been a question mark for me this entire season for the Longhorns. Kind of impressive that they were able to cover.
Yeah, I think it matters.
One word for it. But when you're on TCU, I had a few other words, but
fair. So we're going to try and get that bad boy up boosted on DRF Sportsbook. So if you're in Iowa, keep your eyes peeled to look out for that parlay. You can bet it at about a 10-15% boost. We'll see what we can do. But thank you so much, Ryan and Nick, for coming on, breaking down all of these bets. We'll be back next week, fingers crossed, breaking down conference tournaments, giving away some maybe future bets, maybe some parlay locks there as well. But thank you both for coming on.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.
Just a reminder to our listeners, Iowa Wise Guys, you can find our podcast on any major platform. And next week, Nick and I will be doing a big, probably about a 45-minute long conference preview as well. So check that out.
At Wise Guys Ryan and at Wise Guys Nick. Thanks, Jack.